Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a little different, sort of a storytelling session, you could say. Get ready, because we're about to explore some, well, truly unsettling tales from around the world. Stories that have haunted cultures for generations, And honestly, they still send shivers down spines today. But these aren't just like simple, spooky stories you tell around a campfire. Often they reveal much deeper anxieties, or even historical realities of the people who first told them. Our mission today is to share the core of these legends, really make them come alive for you, connect some dots, but without, adding to the information overload out there. And to kick things off, we're heading straight to North America. We're going to meet a creature that's become, well, almost a modern horror icon, the terrifying Wendigo. So a lot of you might actually recognize the Wendigo, maybe from TV shows like Supernatural, or that video game, Until Dawn. But its roots, they go way deeper. They're woven into Algonquian legend, and some say it still stalks parts of Canada and the USA even now. The whole idea of the Wendigo is just terrifying. It used to be human, but it's transformed by this insatiable craving for human flesh. And it doesn't really matter if that first taste came from, say, desperation during a brutal winter or something darker. Once they start, they become consumed by it, perpetually hungry, just never ever satisfied. That's actually why some traditions describe them with no lips. They supposedly ate their own lips off in their hunger. An Ojibwe teacher and scholar gave this incredibly vivid description. It's pretty graphic, he said. The Wendigo was gaunt to the point of emaciation, its desiccated skin pulled tightly over its bones, with its bones pushing out against its skin, its complexion the ash gray of death, and its eyes pushed back deep into their sockets. The Wendigo looked like a gaunt skeleton recently disinterred from the grave. What lips it had were tattered and bloody. And then the Wendigo gave off a strange and eerie odor of decay and decomposition, of death and corruption. Pretty chilling, right?
Oh, absolutely chilling. And what's really compelling about that image, beyond just the pure terror of it, is how it almost certainly served a crucial cultural purpose back then. This terrifying figure, it likely started as a powerful cautionary tale, really designed to, actively dissuade people from resorting to cannibalism.
Okay, so especially during those really harsh winters when food was scarce.
Exactly, when famine was a very real, constant threat. It wasn't just a monster story.
It was like a survival lesson, morality mixed with fear.
Precisely. And if you look at it through a sort of broader cultural lens, you see these legends aren't static. They evolve. Today, for many indigenous people, the Wendigo has become this potent symbol. It embodies unchecked greed, the corruptibility of the human soul.
So a warning against excessive consumption in general, not just literal flesh.
Right, consumption of resources, of power. It's taken on new layers of meaning.
Okay, wow. From the icy north, let's journey across the Atlantic now to England, specifically to the kind of desolate moors of Dartmoor. For a lesser-known tale, but I think equally terrifying, the Curri. This one isn't about jump scares or, big monstrous beasts. It's more subtle. It's this insidious psychological terror that really burrows under your skin. The legend whispers about this invisible entity waiting near graves out on the moor. And if you wander too close, it latches onto you, and it slowly starts making your life a living hell. That's the phrase used. You might not even realize it's happening at first. It's gradual. Over weeks, maybe months, possibly even years, the Curri slowly reveals itself. You might hear faint whispers, see things in your dreams, feel a sudden cold touch on your neck. But as time goes on, it gets more aggressive, clawing at you while you sleep. It might even project its own, grotesque face onto the faces of your loved ones while you're talking to them, attacking you in your nightmares.
That isolation must be terrifying.
Exactly. That's the really disturbing part. Nobody else can see or hear the Curri.
Yeah.
So you start questioning your own sanity, right? Your own reality. Eventually, it makes you this cruel promise. It says, if you just go back to the moor, it'll finally leave you alone. And by this point, you're just mentally exhausted, desperate for any kind of relief.
So you give in.
You inevitably give in. You end up wandering aimlessly around Dartmoor, and the Curri keeps whispering these words of encouragement and you're almost there, almost free. Until eventually you just collapse from exhaustion, you can't go on. And as you're lying there, dying, unable to move, the Curri tells you how much it's going to enjoy dragging your soul down to hell. And just like that, another solitary grave appears on that bleak moor.
That slow breakdown. the psychological element. That's precisely why tales like the Curri hit so hard. They tap into really fundamental human fears, don't they? The fear of isolation, of losing your mind, of being completely alone in your torment, unable to make anyone else believe you.
And the place itself, Dartmoor.
Right. That eerie, isolated landscape, the ancient burial sites, the fog. It's the perfect backdrop. It almost becomes a character in the story itself, amplifying that dread.
That's a great point. The setting enhances the fear. Okay, let's shift continents again. We're heading south to Latin America for a really tragic and chilling story. The Llorona, the weeping woman. This legend is deeply rooted in Mexico. The story goes there was a woman named Maria, apparently very beautiful once, but in a blind rage, finding out her husband was unfaithful, she did the unthinkable. She drowned her own children in a river as this ultimate horrific act of revenge. Later, when she, came to her senses and realized what she'd done, the despair was just too much. She couldn't live with it, so she drowned herself in the exact same river.
Such a tragic origin.
Right. And now she's cursed, trapped somewhere between life and death. Her ghost walks the earth, endlessly searching for the souls of her lost children. In vain, of course. They say at night she kidnaps kids who are wandering around. Tragically, she mistakes them for her own, then she begs them for forgiveness. And then, in this awful twist of her curse, she drowns them too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's why you're most likely to encounter her near lakes or rivers. You'll hear her weeping on the wind, and the legend warns anyone who hears her crying, they're doomed to live a shorter life. And if you listen for too long, well, you're marked for death.
Looking at it culturally, La Llorona's story has had this incredibly powerful social function. For generations, it's been a really effective way to keep children from wandering off at night in Latin America.
Makes sense. Like a boogeyman, but with a really specific, tragic backstory.
Exactly. It's not just a scary story. It's a vivid, terrifying reminder of real dangers, especially near water, before modern streetlights and infrastructure. It was basically survival advice wrapped in folklore.
Passed down through generations. That's fascinating. These aren't just for thrills. Okay, from Latin America, let's jump across the Pacific to Japan. We're going to look at a slightly lesser-known twist on a very famous legend, Sadako, or as many in the West know her, Samara from The Ring. Now, most people know the story about the haunted videotape, right? Watch it, phone rings, 7 days. But there's a specific Japanese folk legend, apparently from the 80s, even before the novel that inspired the films. And this one is about contacting Sadako directly, using a phone number.
A phone number?
Yeah, seriously. The instructions are weirdly specific. First, you dial your country's exit code, then dial 81, that's the Japanese dialing code, and after that, Sadako's number is apparently 090-4444-4444. Now, if you call her, she won't speak. She won't give you the 7-day warning like in the movies. Instead, you'll just hear her making this extremely unsettling, unnatural, high-pitched sound.
Creepy.
Yeah. Callers have reported that the sound is so disturbing you just want to hang up immediately. And they also describe feeling extremely uneasy in the days after the call. Some even feel like there's an unwanted presence in their house. And here's the kicker. Within a week of calling Sadako, something extremely traumatizing is supposed to happen to you. Not necessarily death, but a major tragedy or some kind of life-altering event. Basically, nothing good comes from calling her.
That's really intriguing how this specific legend adapted to modern tech, like phones. While keeping that core supernatural dread, Japan has this unique mix of ancient tradition and hypermodern technology.
Yeah, it's a fertile ground for that kind of thing.
Definitely. It really highlights how ancient fears, maybe fears about the unknown or unseen forces, can find totally new ways to express themselves, tapping into those cultural anxieties we sometimes get about new ways of communicating.
It's like the medium changes, but the underlying fear is still there. Okay, now let's descend into the dark, claustrophobic world of mines for the tales of the Tommyknockers. Or sometimes just knockers, as they're known in England. These were believed to be these, malevolent spirits, or maybe ghostly beings living in mines and caves. They got their name from this distinctive knocking sound, an echo through the mines, and it always seemed to happen right before a cave-in.
Oh, that's terrifying timing.
Exactly. Miners had two main ways of interpreting these knocks. Some thought they were truly evil creatures hammering away at the support beams, actively trying to cause a collapse and kill them. Others had a slightly more positive or maybe just hopeful view. They saw the knocks as warnings, benevolent spirits trying to tell them to get out.
Either way, hearing it must have been awful.
Oh, the most terrifying sound any miner could hear, something they all dreaded, especially the ones working deepest underground. After those first few ominous knocks, it was apparently just a frantic scramble for the exit, just praying the supports would hold long enough for them to get out. And the belief was so strong, get this, in 1956, a group of miners actually refused to work. They wouldn't go back down until the mine owners agreed to have all the Tommyknockers, quote, removed.
Wow. How would they even... Well, never mind. That shows how real it was to them.
Right. And while they're not really a concern for modern industrial mining anymore, some adventurous cavers, spelunkers, they still believe. They report hearing these disorienting knocks deep inside caves, knocks that seem to, compel them to follow, luring them deeper and deeper into the maze, sometimes tragically, leading them to get lost, or worse.
You know, scientifically speaking, that sound was almost certainly just the earth settling, the creaking of rock and timbers under immense pressure. It's a natural part of that dangerous environment.
Exactly.
But that rational explanation doesn't take away from the very real impact these folklore creatures had. They were considered the absolute bane of many miners' lives, a genuine daily concern for them and their families. It really embodies the constant life-threatening dangers they faced. It's a perfect example of folklore giving a tangible form to something terrifyingly unpredictable.
That really does make the dread feel so much more real. Okay, our journey takes us next to Romania, to explore the Strigoi. It literally means dead witch. These creatures have been part of Romanian folklore since way back the 1600s, and they were actually a significant inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula.
The original vampire blueprint, almost?
Exactly. Think of them as the first incarnation of the modern vampire idea. Reanimated corpses that drain the living of their blood. And they can shapeshift, apparently, to hide among people. Now, there are various ways someone could become a Strigoi after they die. It's quite a list. For instance, the seventh child of the same sex in a family, tragically doomed. Any baby born with a cowl, like a piece of the amniotic sac over its head. Anyone who led a particularly sinful life. Anyone who died unmarried, or died by suicide, or execution, or for perjury, or even just after being cursed by someone. Lots of ways.
Seems hard not to become one, almost.
Right, and what's really unsettling is their insidious nature. They're described as both human and demonic. Once they reanimate, they feel this compulsion to return to their families, and they act just like they did in life. But the Strigoi's very presence slowly weakens their living family members. As time passes, the family members just die off one by one, often without any clear medical reason.
A slow parasitic drain.
Exactly. To keep existing, the Strigoi is then forced to steal vitality, or blood, from others, killing them in the process. Their bite is always fatal, but unlike a lot of modern vampire stories, it doesn't turn the victim into another Strigoi. Because of all this, traditionally, many people in Romania were buried with a stake through the heart, and their coffins were nailed shut, just to be sure.
Standard vampire precautions, then.
Pretty much. But here's where it gets really interesting and kind of disturbing. The belief in Strigoi isn't just ancient history locked away in books. In 2004, not that long ago, a Strigoi hunting party was actually formed. This happened after a woman claimed her recently deceased uncle had been visiting her, presumably as a Strigoi. So this group dug up the old man's corpse, they tore out his heart, burned the body to ash, and then, and this is truly shocking, they mixed the ashes with water and drank it.
Good grief, what happened to them?
They ended up facing prison sentences for desecration, obviously. And there's another slightly older case from 1969. An undecomposed corpse found with eyes wide open, reddish face was exhumed and burned. This was after several family members died mysteriously, and they concluded it must be a Strigoi.
It just begs the question, doesn't it? How deeply can folklore influence actual actions, even today? These incidents really show the powerful, enduring hold that these ancient beliefs can still have. They can actually transcend official laws. For some people, these are not just stories. They're a real and present danger driving extreme actions.
That's a really profound point. That belief can just override everything else. Okay, from Romania, let's cross over to the lochs and rivers of Scotland and Ireland. For the Kelpie, this is an aquatic horse spirit that lures unsuspecting victims to a watery grave. There's a similar creature in Icelandic myths, too, called the Nikor. They're usually described as these beautiful black horses standing deceptively near large bodies of water, looking quite inviting, maybe.
But looks can be deceiving.
Very deceiving. Don't be fooled by the beauty. The danger is immense. Anyone who touches the horse or tries to mount it becomes instantly stuck fast, glued to it, completely unable to break free. Then the Kelpie will just slowly, deliberately walk into the deep water, drowning whoever is stuck to it.
Horrifying.
There's a popular tale about a group of boys who find one. All but one climb onto its back. The last boy just reaches out and pets its neck. He quickly realizes his hand is stuck solid. Then, with dawning horror, he notices the horse's hooves are on backwards.
The classic sign.
The unmistakable mark of a Kelpie. As the creature starts walking into the loch carrying his friends, he's forced to take out a knife and cut off his own fingers to escape, while his friends are all tragically drowned.
What a gruesome escape.
Yeah, and there's even this chilling personal account I read from a Reddit user called Newton. They described being found as a child just walking directly into a fish pond. Apparently when asked what they were doing, they just half-consciously mumbled, "I was following the pony."
Wow. That sends a shiver down your spine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a really compelling aspect of this legend is probably its practical origin. Horses, especially back then, were powerful, sometimes unpredictable animals. Lots of accidents happen.
True.
And deep water is obviously inherently dangerous, especially for kids. So this legend most likely started as a really effective cautionary tale, something parents told their children.
Keep away from strange horses near the water.
Exactly. Keep away from dangerous animals, keep away from deep, treacherous waters. In that way, this piece of folklore probably saved quite a few of our ancestors from drowning or accidents. Like an ancient public safety announcement, really.
It's amazing, isn't it, how a terrifying story could actually be protective. Okay, let's transport ourselves now to the, well, usually serene, but on certain nights, chilling Hawaiian coastline, home of the Hakahaio, or the Night Marchers. These are believed to be the spirits of ancient Hawaiian warriors, still carrying out their martial duties even in the afterlife. They usually appear just after sunset or maybe right before dawn, and they're heralded by this sound, distant drums and footsteps getting closer and closer.
Sounds ominous.
It is, because these spectral warriors, they're known to kill anyone who witnesses their march, anyone who looks upon them. If you can already see their torches, they say it's too late to run. Your best chance, maybe your only chance, is to play dead, lie flat on the ground. And you must avoid making eye contact at all costs. Some traditions say placing your face right into the sand or the dirt is the best bet. It's seen as a sign of profound respect.
A gesture of submission.
Right. Now, there is a sliver of hope. If one of your own ancestors happens to be marching in their ranks, they might spare your life, but I mean, are you really willing to bet on that?
Probably not. You know, one might wonder why these tales persisted so strongly. These legends serve to deeply enforce respect for sacred sites, for ancient traditions within Hawaiian culture.
So it's about reverence, too.
Absolutely. They're not just ghost stories. They're woven right into the cultural fabric. They remind people about boundaries, about respect for the past, the powerful presence of ancestors and history. It's about maintaining spiritual order and respecting the land.
That adds another layer entirely. Okay, finally our last tale for today. We'll conclude with the chilling skinwalkers. These are creatures deeply, deeply believed in by a large proportion of Navajo people. So much so that even talking about them openly is believed to attract their attention. So we'll tread carefully here. A skinwalker is generally defined as a type of Native American witch. More specifically, a shaman or maybe a witch doctor who committed a terrible act murdering someone close to them to gain their power.
A dark pact.
Exactly. They often appear as animals, but usually distorted, kind of tattered replicas. It's described less as true shape-shifting and more like they're literally inhabiting the skin of animals they've killed. While it's rare, they can apparently take human form too. Now, skinwalkers apparently rarely kill without a specific motive. They tend to keep to themselves mostly. But when they do decide to hunt someone, they tend to isolate their prey first.
Makes sense, tactically.
And one of their deadliest tricks, they can call out to you in a familiar voice, the voice of a loved one maybe, trying to lure you towards them into danger. Their vocabulary is often said to be limited, though. Some legends even say they can only repeat the last phrase their previous victims screamed before they died.
Oh, that's grim.
Yeah. So common lures might be things like, "Help me," or simple calls. But they aren't invincible. They seem to avoid groups of people. If a skinwalker thinks the odds are stacked against them in any situation, they'll probably flee rather than fight. And here's one last, truly chilling indicator they say to watch out for. If you ever startle an animal like a dog or a deer or maybe a coyote and you see it suddenly stand up on its back 2 legs and run away like that, you'll know it just crossed your path.
The power of that story, I think, lies in just how seriously it's taken. For many people, especially within the Navajo community, these aren't just old stories. They represent a very real, very present concern that genuinely influences daily life, daily consciousness, how people interact with the world around them. It really underscores how deeply these narratives can be integrated into a lived reality, far beyond what outsiders might dismiss as superstition.
Yeah, the conviction is powerful. So wow, we've journeyed through 9 pretty disturbing folklore creatures from all over the world. And, it's easy to just dismiss these stories as pure fantasy. And maybe, rightly so, the simplest explanation is usually the most logical, right? But as we've kind of touched on with a few of these, most folklore does seem to originate from something. An actual event, maybe, or an encounter, or a fear that just got slowly exaggerated and transformed over time through retelling.
And perhaps, just perhaps,
Yeah.
there's a little more truth, or at least some unexplained phenomena behind some of these encounters than we'd maybe like to comfortably think.
We'll leave you to ponder that unsettling question. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of unsettling tales from around the globe. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of folklore, please do consider sharing it with others who appreciate a good chilling story. And of course, be sure to subscribe to the deep dive for more journeys into fascinating topics. Stay curious and maybe stay spooky.